If you like this video, please click on the like button. Comment with the names of the movies you would like us to cover next. Click the subscribe button and press the bell icon to get notified of our latest creations. We cover 100 movies from around the world every day. To advertise with our channel, reach out to us. Our contact information is on our channel page. Now, let's move to the plot of this movie.
Zachary, Zach, is an 18-year-old introverted Jewish DJ and rapper who lives with his chauvinistic father Richard, who runs a record store specializing in blues and jazz music. Zach's mother died when he was very young. Zach's best childhood friend is a young black man named D, who along with Zach is also a rapper, and both of them record music together. Zach works part-time at an Italian restaurant. In Zach's neighborhood, there is an eccentric man named Dominic who is a pyromaniac that lives on land adjacent to an industrial power plant. One day at school, Zach gets into a quarrel with his girlfriend Michelle, and the both of them separate from each other. During this fight, he sees a new transfer student who just moved from New York, a black teenager named Nicole, Nikki, who turns out to be D's cousin. Zach becomes infatuated with Nikki despite never talking to her. One night, Zach comes over for dinner at Dee's house. Zach confides in Dee that he is attracted to Nikki, to which the fact of him being a white man and she is a black woman, he feels scared to proceed. Dee tells Zach that he shouldn't be concerned over that. However, Dee's father warns Zach that he might receive negativity from this. Zach then decides to finally introduce himself to Nikki, although not fully disclosing his full feelings towards her. Zach talks to his grandfather Saul. At the record store, his father runs for advice on how to deal with his current situation, to which he tells him, as Zach is a musician, to woo Nikki with his DJ skills. The following day at school, Zach brings his turntable set in the gymnasium and starts to DJ urban music. Some of the students, especially Nikki, seem to enjoy the music and are dancing to it. However, this causes friction between many of the black students who believe he is culturally appropriating, including Larry, who is into Pan-Africanism, and Calvin Nutt, one of the school's delinquent bullies. Zach and Nikki become closer to each other while picking up Nikki for a date one night at her home. Nutt, who lives next door to Nikki, and some of his friends harass and say racial epithets to Zach and sexually suggestive rude comments to Nikki, to which they both ignore them. Zach takes Nikki to his father's record store, to where they have their first kiss. Soon after that, one day after school, Zach brings Nikki to his house, and they both make love, to which Zach's father secretly watches them in amusement. Zach soon introduces Nikki to his father, to which he couldn't care less that Nikki is black. Zach invites Nikki to a house party with some of his extended friends, to which she is the only black person there, in which Nikki meets Michelle, his ex-girlfriend, to where she seems to be happy that Zach and Nikki are together. Nikki seems uncomfortable at the party, and unfortunately walks into Zach and some of his friends making friendly, yet disrespectful racist sexual jokes towards Nikki. Outraged, Nikki runs out of the party and breaks up with Zach. Nikki avoids Zach, and after telling Dee what happened, he as well distances himself from Zach, Nutt, and his friends, and other black classmates at her school. Tell Nikki that Zach was playing some type of sick game with her, and she needs to stay away from him. Nutt also briefly seduces Nikki, to which at first she accepts his advances, but she later rejects them. After making amends and apologizing to Dee, Zach goes to Nikki's house and apologizes to her on her front porch. Nikki decides to remain friends with Zach and invites him to a roller rink later that night, in which some of the other students from school will be there. Nut, who was eavesdropping on Zach apologizing to Nikki, becomes envious and angered. At the roller skating rink, Nut sexually harasses Nikki, which she tells him to leave her alone. Zach, who arrives late, notices Nut agitating her and tells him to stop. Nut and Zach begin to fight, to which Dee also walks over and pushes Nut to the ground. Nut then fatally shoots Dee and runs out of the skating rink. At Dee's funeral, Zach gives a eulogy to Dee in Aramaic. The mourner's Kaddish, a Jewish ritual, is recited in Aramaic, rather than Hebrew. Nikki, while walking home from the funeral, is attacked by Nut, who threatens to kill her. Nut then runs away. The following day at school, many of Zach and Nikki's classmates both talk about what happened at the skating rink. The discussion later turns heated into the fact that many classmates believe if Zach and Nikki never got together, Dee would never be shot. Nikki then quickly dismisses that fact and runs out of the classroom. The rest of the class continues into a heated racial discussion, with Zach staying silent watching. After Vinny and Larry start to get into a verbal fight, Zach runs out of the classroom. He runs into the school principal, Mr. Cimino, who tells Zach to stick with his own race when it comes to relationships. He ignores him and walks past him. Back in the classroom, Vinny and Larry start to physically fight and they both tussle outside in the hallway. Zach notices Nikki crying in the hall and goes over to comfort her. Then they passionately hug.